Well, welcome to my November 15th video, and today I want to focus on some material that Patrick Carnes has for sex addicts. I have done in the past videos on the cycle of addiction and the cycle of recovery, and it really outlines, addicts when they have to confront sexual and relational behavior, they really focus on the behavior, like what's the acting out, and that's, makes sense because it's the thing that's biting you, and it's the thing that's caused you the most pain, and it's the thing that people, it's sex on premises, it's going to beats, it's pornography and masturbation, it's visible. But when you work on the cycle of addiction and break down, as Carnes calls it, the anatomy of addiction, then acting out behavior is triggered by the rituals, and it's the rituals and the obsession, that hunt zone, that creates all the dopamine and all the adrenaline and all the cortisol for any addiction. Doesn't matter what addiction is, even if it's a heroin addict going to get on. If you were to take their chemical makeup in the car on the way, knowing the drugs are going to be there, it's way different than when they were hanging out and their heart rate's up, the adrenaline's pumping, the dopamine's pumping. So what happens to addicts is they look, it's a no-brainer. I know I need to stop that stuff. They get celibate. They stop masturbating. They put it all down, and all of a sudden, this new thing really becomes the enemy, and that's objectification. That the mind now is in withdrawal. It's needing that hit, and it'll pull from the environment any image that is close to the arousal tempted to get that hit of dopamine. And that's what's so hard about early recovery is that craving management. So there's a couple of things I wanted to go over in regards to that for this video really quickly. One is it's just a sheet I have that's that Patrick Carnes' tools for objectification, and there was a couple of the things in here that I like just about breaking down some of those behaviors for resisting addictive cravings. So I might just go to the tips and then that. So here's some tools. If you've found now that you've stopped the behavior, but objectification has become the new enemy, here's a few things that you can do. Firstly, eye bouncing. We can't help but notice it's there. We're going to turn a corner. I remember once walking, and I was talking to an accountability partner in the program, and just as I'm walking, someone comes running past me in yoga pants, and it's time to sort of eye bounce, look away, and the more we practice these tools, the better at them we get. The 3-second rule: stop, look away, and affirm or pray, depending on what your belief is. If your belief is that this is you're a Christian, then this is the time to access the Holy Spirit, to access Jesus. If you're an atheist or agnostic, this is the time to access your motivational commitment. Why are you doing this? Is it your wife, family, your job, your integrity? Why are you committed to recovery? Humanizing. Now, all these tools aren't a one-size-fits-all. Sometimes going into humanizing triggers fantasy for some people with the relational addiction, so be careful about that. If that's not the case, humanizing, this is someone's wife, daughter, son, husband, father, mother, really making that a human being and not an object. One of the things that porn has destroyed for humanity is it's just overly sexualized humans. So we can't help but see someone. It's like any addiction does this. It's drugs sort of humanize money. Money isn't for rent or school education. It's for drugs. $50 is so much drugs versus as you get clean and get a bit of extinction around that, it has a whole new meaning. Fantasy and image contamination, for example, pairing the image with a displeasing image, play the tape forward. How will this play out? Sometimes think it through, as an old AA saying, that what happens here if so I go and I act out, I start fantasizing about this person. What am I going to go talk to them? Am I going to have an affair? No. So it's like play the tape forward and see what you get. Walk away and pray, and again, if you're an atheist or agnostic, walk away and affirm. Have that gratitude list for the day. Why are you doing recovery? Distraction techniques, singing, stress balls, and I've had guys that will have a cold shower. Excuse me, guys, it's morning coffee time. A cold shower, star jumps, push-ups, anything that changes your state. I was talking to a guy yesterday saying it's so effective now that the shower was a painful place for him for self-touch, and so now he does that Wim Hof cold exposure, 2 minutes at the end, and it just pure cold shower changes his state, feels fantastic. Choosing seating wisely, it's very common, even unconsciously common for addicts to position themselves where they get the best view to objectify. So choosing a place in a restaurant or when you're out where you're not getting that maximum view and limiting what you can see. And being willing to change your seat if the view changes. I've had guys tell me that they've done that, and then as they were there with their partner, and their partners are acutely aware of this, so get used to doing this. Someone walks in that's part of your arousal template, you need to change seats. Because if you expect your partner now to be able to just suspend all of her trauma while you're sitting there knowing there's someone right behind you, it's not going to work. So being willing to choose your seat wisely and change your seat wisely when you have to. Engage in personal connection if appropriate. If unsure, use another tool. Where I've certainly seen this work is in the workplace, where you've got to be at a workshop all day and the presenter is someone that meets your arousal template, and that's choosing your seat wisely is good, humanizing is good, but also engaging. So letting someone know about you, you're married, your children, out yourself. Don't sit there pretending, especially if you're a relationship addict that builds sort of enmeshment on intrigue. Put yourself in the place where you are showing your family photos, where you're in a collection or a group conversation and revealing about yourself. Avoidance techniques, momentary intervention, so it's okay to use some of those skills of just exiting a situation, making an excuse, got to go to the bathroom, excuse me, I've got to make an important call, get out of the situation, ring a sponsor, ring your accountability partner, pray, listen to a meditation or a mindfulness, do some box breathing, give yourself that space to do what you need to do. Avoiding people, places, and things that are triggering. Let's face it, when you know that a certain suburb, a certain street is a place where you've acted out, then simply, I've seen great success for guys just saying, I just don't go through that suburb. I've had guys put whole suburbs on their just their bottom lines, and because they know if they're heading to that suburb for no other reason. And then using other tools like bookending and that if they have to. But yeah, where possible, you make sure that people, places, and things, you've got to know what triggers you and then put those on the list. Acknowledge and talk about fantasy as soon as possible. This to me simply is, if you're in this zone and your objectification's up, let someone know, come out of it straight away. It's Carnes's sort of rule number one for relapse is unchecked secrets, and addicts, part of accepting our powerlessness isn't that we're powerless over the behavior. We're not. We're powerless over the impact of this sort of fantasy obsession. So reach out, let someone know immediately. If you do that, it'll be a different recovery you're experiencing. Driving a different route, holding ice in your hand, sometimes that sort of just having something to change your state, like the cold shower. If you can't have a cold shower, getting a piece of ice, putting it in your hand, bringing your focus to that and away from the fantasy. Journaling, not about the fantasy though, but about the consequences and reality. Carnes has got some great relapse prevention tools. A lot of other practitioners do too, but just writing about what would the consequences be here. Rubber bands, gently sort of slapping it to snap out of it. Again, if you're a self-harmer, it mightn't be the right tool, but I've seen guys get success with that. Mindfulness techniques, focusing on the breath, awareness, and the body sensation and feelings, slow down. I would say that in another video I've done Pete Walker's tips for dealing with flashbacks. Great opportunity to bring in regulation tools when an addict gets triggered. And then reading a letter to yourself. And what I wanted to do is Carnes, some of the tips for Carnes, if you get his resource, Facing the Shadow, it's a workbook for sex addiction. And he's got a great little template there for a letter to self. And he's just saying that, imagine if you were your own sponsor writing a letter to yourself just at the time you wanted to act out. What would you say? By writing the letter and carrying it with you, you have a significant resource to pull out at the last minute. Simply writing it creates the psychological distance you need. Addressing this letter from you to yourself, including answers to the following questions. So this is what you want to sort of encapsulate in it. What are the probable circumstances in which this is being read? What are the consequences if you ignore the letter? What would you really need at the time of a slip? What clear criteria for behavior can you give yourself? What is the hope if you don't act out? And what's at stake if you do act out? What is the plea you need to hear at this situation? So you take your letter, to your group, and you have your sponsor and group members write notes on the letter itself, and get feedback from others, because of course we minimize use and consequence when it comes to addiction. So get some feedback on this, and to give you an example of that, dear Chris, when you feel the urge, pull out this letter. Chances are, if you're reading it, you're experiencing a pleasurable thrill at the thought of doing something. Please read to the end, because if the thought is about acting out, chances are you are alone and contemplating it. So please keep reading. Each time is the same. There is the thought, the pleasure. There is the anger, the loneliness, the feelings of entitlement. But remember, every time is the same, and you will regret it terribly, with what you know now what to do. You will have to worry about being caught. You will wonder if you will get a disease. You will despair over the broken commitments. You will feel pain at the people you use. You will have to tell lies to cover up. Always there are lies. You will have suicidal feelings. You will place all your career and success in jeopardy. You'll never enjoy it. You are always disappointed. And you will lose yourself for days thinking about God's punishment, even though you know that isn't true. Right now, your addict is seducing you with promises that won't work, so figure out what you need. Are you hungry or tired? Are you angry? Are you overextended? Are you needing care? Find whatever you need and get it. Do not do the one thing that will make all of the above worse. The question is, if everybody could see what you are about to do, would you still do it? You are lovable and worthwhile. You deserve getting your needs met in a way that respects your wonderfulness. Imagine spirituality that is peaceful, graceful, vibrant, and growing. Now, what are you about to do now? Please listen to yourself. You know that it won't happen for you by acting out. Think of all the faces of those in the past. Do not kid yourself. Instead, love yourself enough to let it pass. Let it go. Call someone. Love, Chris. So, tools for objectification, letter to self, hope they're useful. It's MOvember day 15. Good luck. Be gentle with your heart today on the road to recovery. Excited about our MOvember event tomorrow with Dr. Rob Weiss. Please reach out, personal message if you're interested in coming, or let someone else know. Flyers on my website and the MOvember page. And see you tomorrow.